All right, today what we're going to talk about is arithmetic versus recursive. So we've already talked about explicit formula, so that's where we can list the first few terms and we can find any future terms pretty easily. And the formula was what we did here, where we said first term, this was your difference, and then this was to determine how many terms you have. So now what we're going to talk about is recursive form. So recursive is new to us, so we can list the first few terms. We can't find an nth term without listing them all, but we can find the next term. So we're just going to go through. Let's look at our explicit form here. Well, I know that the first term is 13, and I know that the common difference is it's decreasing by 5 each time. So to get from here, you're subtracting 5, subtracting 5, subtracting 5. Continues on. So this one we can find the 30th term by just substituting it in minus the first. And then once you go ahead and you simplify that, then it's going to give you negative 132. So that was pretty straightforward. But again, here for recursive, you can figure out what the first term is, but you just have to look to figure out what the common difference. So it's just written a little bit differently, but here you can figure out the first 5 terms or however many you want to go. So just start here, and you're going to look at your constant. Your constant is going to be your common difference. So again, we subtract 5, all the way down. So these would be the first 5 terms. All right, so now, if you look here, we've got the first 5 terms, so we know our starting term is negative 4. We know the common difference is plus 2, and we're going to put it into our formula. So if we were just to count this, we know to go plus 2, we land at negative 2, and to add 2 more, add 2, and then add 2. So that would be our first 5 terms. We can find the 18th term or whatever term by just substituting it in. So go ahead, solve that, or simplify that, and you're going to get negative 4 plus 34, which is 30. So now we're going to take the same thing here, but we're just going to put it here. So our first term is negative 4, and remember our common difference is plus 2. So we're just adding 2 each time. So these would be our first 5 terms, which is the same as here. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to complete those 2 using the examples from before. So now we can take the information from here, because if you notice, these are the same thing. We just have different ways of going about to get them. So now we're going to talk about the explicit and recursive. So here's your explicit, and then we're going to put it into both. So if it gives us the pattern, we have to figure out for the first one. To get our starting is going to be 2. Then to get from here to here, the common difference is 3. So for our explicit, and then go ahead and then combine like terms, and then bring the 3 in down. So you could write it this way, or you can write it that way. It doesn't matter which way is simplified. But if we want to find the 12th term, you just got to substitute 12 in here. So the 12th term would be 35. Now on here, it's just asking a little bit differently, because here's your recursive. And then here was your explicit, okay? So for your recursive, we're still doing the same thing where we're talking about our first term, which is 2, and then we want to know the common difference. So to get from here to here, you're adding 3, so your common difference is here. So your formula is your next term is your current term plus d. So that's really all we're doing here. So if you know your next term is your current term plus your difference. And we're starting at 2 for both times. So that's just a different way of writing the formulas. So let's go ahead, oops, and if you notice, they're the same thing both ways, just different ways of writing it. All right, so let's look here. We're going to have -6 to -9. We're decreasing by 3. So we know our common difference is -3. We started at -6. So think of this as like your constant, it's your y-intercept-ish, if you want to think of it that way. And then our common difference is similar to like your rate. And then you're going to multiply that by n-1. So whatever your number is minus the first number. All right, go ahead, distribute to get -3n plus 3. And then bring down the -6. Combine like terms. And you'll get -3n minus 3. Or you could write it that way, either or. So if we want to find the 36th term, we're just going to substitute 36 in for n, and you'll get -111. So here, we're just determining same thing. So we know it's the next term equals the current term plus that. And then a, that's your first term. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead, I want you to try those using what we did before. And then for the last part, we're going to write as a recursive equation. So we were just kind of discovering what was happening before, but now we're going to take this and we're going to turn it into a recursive. So your starting term is 54. Your common difference is you're decreasing by 6 or -6. So we're just going to take our term minus the term before, or sorry, equals the term before minus 6. So that's all you got to do. And then your first term is here. So if you noticed, that's exactly what we're doing right here. So we're just doing it a little bit different. And then now we're going to write it as an explicit equation. So explicit are the easier ones to solve. You just take whatever your difference is, and then you take whatever your first term is and plug it in. So it's just remembering which one is which for this. But explicit is pretty easy. We've talked about that before. Recursive is a little bit different, which is right here. All right. And that is your explicit and recursive, or excuse me, arithmetic versus recursive.